Thank you very much for your attention to all the details of the bipartisan infrastructure law and the purviews of your department. I thank you for visiting New Hampshire on at least a couple of occasions to announce funding for critical local priorities, and we'll have you back anytime. New Hampshire's been successful in securing funding through the RAISE program, and earlier this summer I was with other members of our delegation at the General Sullivan Bridge project in Dover in Newington. It's replacing an aging structure that's been closed for a number of years. It's going to add a wider bike and pedestrian bridge that's going to connect to a regional network, which is really important for moving people, but also for our local economy. But I'm concerned about delays that we're hearing about for this project and two other bridge projects in New Hampshire. My staff recently met with folks from Federal Highway, from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the Coast Guard to talk about the status of these projects. And I'm grateful that Federal Highway has completed its reviews as the lead agency, but we're waiting on sign-off from other federal and state agencies, which is causing delays in this project. So this is frustrating to folks in New Hampshire, and I'm wondering if you could talk about what you can do as a department, as the lead federal agency for so many of these projects in places like New Hampshire. How do you coordinate with other federal agencies, and do we have your commitment to keep working with Coast Guard and the Army Corps to make sure these bridge projects in New Hampshire can move forward efficiently?
Well, thanks, and the short answer is yes. We are committed to working with any other federal agency, just as we work with any project sponsor to try to make sure projects are delivered responsibly and promptly. I know how much excitement there is about the General Sullivan Bridge project. I want to congratulate the project sponsors on making it through that very competitive process. We are very much accustomed to working with the Army Corps of Engineers as part of the NEPA process anytime ports or water relays come into play. And similarly with the Coast Guard, while of course no longer part of the DOT, an agency that we work with very closely. And so in this case, knowing that the permits may not all be within Federal Highway's jurisdiction, we're certainly prepared to be at the table and engaging anytime we can, informally or formally, to help keep things moving and make sure that people see the benefit of that $20 million as soon as we responsibly can get it done.
Well, thank you very much for your commitment there. And while we're on the topic of active transportation, we had an authorization as part of the infrastructure law that created a dedicated program for bike and pedestrian infrastructure, something that my communities are really hungry for. And as part of the omnibus bill, we were able to get $45 million in that bill to fund this program. And I'm wondering if you could give us a status update on where this is and when we might be able to hear about grants moving forward.
Thanks. As you know, dozens and dozens of new programs were created through the IIJA. It's a great problem to have, but it means that our teams have been working in overdrive to get the notices of funding opportunity out, make the award selections. I can tell you we anticipate releasing that particular NOFO for the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program before the end of this calendar year, and FHWA is working on it as we speak.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Toll credits are very important to a state like New Hampshire, and we use these as a federal match on important projects. We've got a surplus of them that is about $200 million at the end of our last fiscal year, and that's one of the reasons why I supported the creation of the toll credit marketplace. And I understand that a pilot program should be stood up soon. It was included in the infrastructure law. Can you update us on that toll credit marketplace that will benefit states and allow them to stretch those dollars even further?
Thanks. This is another example of something that we're working as promptly as we can to deliver. It's complex and it's new, but establishing that toll credit marketplace and just completing the procedural dimensions, the application process, selection process, is underway right now. So we'll follow up with your office as we anticipate a date to be able to put that out, but certainly the work on that program is underway.
Okay. And as you know, as part of the infrastructure law, the base formula for highways wasn't changed. We did see an increase in my state significantly over what we had been receiving for highways. But the formula, I believe, is outdated and disadvantages some states. I'll give you an example. Our neighboring state of Vermont has about half the population of New Hampshire, about the same area size, fewer lane miles, but receives significantly more federal highway dollars each and every year. So I'm wondering if this is something that you are taking into consideration as we think about the discretionary grant opportunities that are contained within the infrastructure law, and whether or not you're open to either studying or looking at the highway formula moving forward.
We're certainly ready to provide any technical assistance that could be useful as Congress reassesses the formula. And also when it comes to the August redistribution that can put, I know, a lot of pressure on states, we want to make sure that we accelerate the award and obligation of funding so that less winds up getting caught in that August redistribution in the first place. And appreciate all the hard work both our own team and the states did getting through this year. We want to make sure that there's equitable use and disbursement of all of these dollars. And certainly when we see needs or deficiencies build up, that's something that is considered in the discretionary grant process, project by project.